Right, I've just had a massive breakfast. Now it's time to build a solar generator. Hi, this is Everyday Prepper. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be building my own solar generator to compete with some of these ones on the market using all the individual components, which I already have, but I'm going to give a price list at the end as well and some links to all of the components that I've used. So let's get to it. Now you have to excuse the mess here, but first of all, this is the box that everything's going to go inside. So there's the lid. This is like a waterproof battery box. It's not particularly thick, so I've seen some DIY builds using like DeWalt toolboxes and that kind of stuff. I do have one of those, but I didn't really want to drill into it because I've got all my tools in there. But this is really handy. I used this for like a trolling motor on my boat, and it was really just to keep the water away from the battery. It's designed for a big lead acid battery, but I'm going to use my small 30 amp hour LifePo battery, which I bought recently, and then we're going to wire everything up to it and hopefully keep it all nice and compact in there. So these are some of the things that I've got. I've got a cooling fan which I'm going to install, which is really cool. I've got various bits of spare wire here so I can get all my cabling right. I'm not going to go into detail about how I do all of that. That's on another video because I've got my solder for my blowtorch there to put the lugs on and all that sort of stuff. A lot of that I've already done. These are the tools I'm going to be using. I'm also going to be using an electrical screwdriver. I've got some connectors here which I might need. I've got some more modern ones of these as well. And this is a power charger cable, which I'm going to, basically with the cables, I'm going to, if you can see these bits on here, they're like a raised bit in the lid where cables can go through and they can come out the other end. So literally I'm going to have this power cable kind of sticking out of the lid. And I'm going to have some solar power cables sticking out of the lid as well, which I can plug a solar panel into, and I can plug the power charger into either or, whichever way I want to charge it. I've got a couple of switches that I'm going to be integrating. I've got a fuse board, which I'm going to be using as well. I've got a couple of little display modules. This one is, what's this one? This is it's not a display, sorry, this is a USB charger, so you've got some USBs in there, so that's going to come on the side. I've got a display module here which uses a Hall effect measurement device which goes around all the negative cables, so it gives me an indication then of the power left in the battery and how much it's drawing and everything else. And I've got some straps that are going to go around. I'm going to cut them to size. They're going to go around the box. And I'm going to make a little carry handle out of those straps somehow. Also we've got some fuses to put in, and of course I've got a fuse box as well. So everything will be fused to the correct ampage, and that's pretty much it. The charge controller and I've got a large negative bus there, and I've got a large positive bus that's going to go on, which is here. That's the large positive bus. So I can put all my big cables on there and just to keep everything a bit more tidy, and that's what we're going to do. And that's pretty much everything, so let's get to it. Now, one of the first things I've got to do is dismantle the, if you watched the previous setup, we had the inverter connected to the battery, and my charge controller has been facilitating my solar panel, which is 130 watt, and that's been charging it up, and the whole system's been working really well. I've been starting to use it. We used the inverter for the bread maker the other day, and we used my USB, my 12 volt cigarette lighter with my USB charger, plugged that in there, and then we've been charging phones up and stuff on it. The battery works really well, tops up really well, really quickly, using the solar panel. So the slight dilemma I've got, it's not really a dilemma, but the solar leads that I've got here, these are sort of longer ones because the ones coming off the solar panel, as you probably saw before, are really short, so I plugged these on. There's a bit of an extension. However, what I don't want to do is have all this spare lead hanging outside of the box. So what I'm going to do is I've got two shorter leads which I can connect to my charge controller inside the box. I have those leads hanging out with some MC4 connectors on, which I'm going to put on the other ends of these, and then the opposite ends will go into the charge controller. And then what I need to do is I'll need to put some other MC4 connectors like these on the other end of this, so I've just got an extension in between, so then these leads will be connected to my solar panel, and then if I want to plug the solar panel in, I can just plug it onto these shorter cables. Hope that makes sense. If not, go back to the previous video and you'll see what I'm on about. So that's basically what I'm going to do. So I've got to dismantle all this, undo all this stuff, get the battery inside the box. Luckily this battery, that length there, fits widthways across the box really nicely. So all I've got to do is find a way of just fixing it in there, and then I'm going to cut some of this board up and mount the inverter, charge controller, fuse box and various other gubbins on there. I'll probably have the inverter and the charge controller on opposite sides on 2 pieces of board. I've measured it all. There'll be a nice little gap in between. I'm going to have some airflow with my fan as well. Right, so I've just soldered on my MC4 connectors onto those little short pieces of wire that are going to come out of the box ready for the solar panel to plug into. I've also just, my wife asked me since I had the blowtorch and the solder out, she said, can I fix her ring? She's got a, we think it's a silver ring or silver plated ring that had a crack in it. It's kind of split where it's been stretched through movement. I think it's just cracked in 2 places. So I tried soldering it, and this is what we got. So the ring completely melted and just plopped onto my tray. So in the bin it had to go. So that certainly fixed it. Right, I'll show you how we're getting along. We've got the battery is just in the box. It's just loosely held in there. I'll figure out a way of strapping that in. I've got a piece of wood there that I just cut up, 8 by 6 inches, and I've got my charge controller, which has the 2 solar adapters coming out, and they're going to pop through these little holes in here, so they're nice and out of the way. And when the lid goes on, it won't pinch the wires. They've got room to go through. That's already got a 20 amp fuse in, so that's good because I'm expecting about 15 amps max really to come from there to the battery and vice versa. Then we've also got these 2 here, which are, one is going to go to, they're both going directly to the battery. I believe those are, which is nice. Yep, so these 2 will connect directly to the battery. I am going to wire in a switch so that I can turn off the charge controller at some point. I'm going to figure out that later, but for now that's going directly to the battery, so that I've always got a battery and monitor. And this will generally be rigged up to the solar panel anyway, so it won't drain because I'll be constantly charging it up. On here I have a fuse box. So we've got a negative, I think, I can't see now, I think it's a negative there and a positive, or the other way around, which I'll attach. So I've got a bus bar here, negative bus bar, which is going to be attached to the negative of the battery, which is there. Then I'm going to have a positive bus bar probably over here with the directly connected to the positive on the battery, and then all the positives are going to run off that bus bar and all the negatives are running off this bus bar. I've got a cable which I'm just cooling down after blowtorching and heat shrinking the connector, so that it's going to be a nice cable going from the negative there to the negative on the fuse box. And then I'm going to run off of that, I can run off the fuse box, I can run my cigarette lighter attachment. I'm going to run my intermittent readout and everything else. So I'm going to show you when that's all hooked up. And then this is my hall monitor, and we've got a little directional arrow on there showing where the direction of that's from the battery outwards. So that basically all the negative cables from the battery go through here, which will mainly be that one, but it will also be the one from the charge controller as well. And that will give me then a readout as to how much is left on the battery, and how much is being used and how much is being charged, etc. Just a good battery monitor. Hopefully, it is Chinese, so we will see. That's a different story. I've had some Chinese stuff arrive today. I'm going to do another video on that. It's from AliExpress. Absolute nightmare. Well, just to point out something here, this cable, I've got 2 different size lugs on the end, because one of them's got to go on the really thick lugs at the bottom here of the negative cable, and then one's got to go to the smaller screw thread on there. So I've sized those up accordingly, so that one will go on the smaller screw thread and that one will go on the larger lug, like that. And that's the idea. and that will transfer from the battery to here via this cable, going into the bus bar, and then the bus bar will then feed this one with a slightly smaller cable. So we've got a larger cable here because that's going to be running the inverter is coming off of the bus bar, so it needs to be capable of handling sort of 200 amps, although it's only a 300 watt inverter, so it only needs really about 80 amps max, but the cables are more than enough for that. And this cable here will handle 30 amps, and I'm only planning on drawing on here with all the USBs and the other bits and pieces, literally only about 8 amps, so should be good. Okay, we're going great guns, we're doing very well. The light is starting to fade. It's now 5:15. I started this thing I don't know, about midday. It's taking me ages, although I have had some other things to do. I'll show you how far we got. Right, this is the box of magic. We have got battery is here, the inverter is there, it's all on the board mounted. We've got our positive bus bar and negative bus bar. We've got our fuse box and our charge controller. Charge controller has the cables ready to go out to with the MC4 connectors to go out to the solar panel. We've got cables there to go to the battery, and I'm going to do that directly to the battery. Then I've got the inverter cables are going to be going to the relevant bus bar. So I've got a positive going to the positive bus bar, a negative going to the negative bus bar, and then the inverter is going to go to the relative bus bars rather than direct to the batteries. I figured that the bus bars can handle over 200 amps. The inverter needs a maximum of 82 amps, I think it is, so that should be fine. The cables to the negative and the positive of the inverter are slightly different lengths, which isn't recommended, I know, but I'm aware of that. I'm not being commissioned to do this for anybody else, and I certainly wouldn't commission to do this for anybody else. I'm not qualified to do that. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not an electrician or anything like that at all, but I will make it work because I've done it before. It's just in a smaller box. It's very compact, but all the fuses are there. You know, as long as it's functional and it's safe and it runs well and it does the job for me. You know, I'm going to probably take it camping with me. I'm going to use it for our bread mixer off the inverter. I'm going to have an extension, a very, very small extension coming off of the inverter because I couldn't mount the inverter so it comes up flush with the box because there's a lip on the bottom of it. So I'm going to stick a little extension on there and then just have that on. I've got 2 master switches coming, one to turn off the charge controller and one to turn off the whole system. So I can turn off the whole system, or I can just turn off the main system but leave the charge controller going. That's the idea anyway. Yeah. So yeah, we're almost there. Hopefully I'll do the rest this evening and then I'll update you with my progress as we go. Right, I've spent pretty much all day on this project. What, about 6-7 hours? A small lunch break in between. It's taken quite a while. Lots of soldering, using the blowtorch, rejigging some new cables up, and everything else, but now it's all put together. It's looking pretty good. It's pretty compact, lots of wires all over the place, but I connected up the battery to the main negative and positive cables. Everything works. The Bluetooth controller works. I've connected to that on my phone, and the USB charging points work as well, as does the 12 volt car battery point, car cigarette lighter point. So the only thing that I'm trying to get working now is the Coulomb meter, which is it's called a Hall meter, using a Coulomb setup. What it does, it has a coil in a device that wraps around the negative cables coming out of the battery, and that will record the voltage and the current and the wattage going into the battery and also out of the battery as well. That's the idea anyway. It's a Chinese piece of junk because it doesn't work properly. The wires are really, really fiddly, and it keeps turning on and off. So, and I'm not sure, there was no instructions with it, so I've got to figure out how to configure the damn thing. I might just be done with it and ditch it, because the Victron charger gives you loads of info anyway. So I'll do the rest of it in the morning, make up some straps, seal up the box, and then we will do the final reveal hopefully in the morning. Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for taking the time to admire this beautiful thing. So what we've got here is a working power bank or generator. We've got the solar leads coming out here. I've accidentally strapped, no, I haven't, there we go. Solar leads there to plug into my solar panel. I've just got to wire up some more of these connectors onto my extension leads, but apart from that we're done. I've got, this is the charging lead for my charger, excuse my dog. This is double-sided tape stuck on the back there for my power outlet, which is onto my inverter, which is actually not switched on because it drains the power, but I've got two power switches, isolation switches arriving today, one that's going to power off the whole thing and one that's going to power off the inverter. I think I'll leave the charge controller connected because I'm generally going to be using it plugged into the solar power, but either way I've got an isolation switch anyway. Now I've also got some lighting on here, so we've got a little light on the side there, emergency lighting. I was going to do the straps around widthways, and then I had straps made up like this and then a handle across the two of them, which worked, but now I've put the light there, I can't get the handle on, so I've had to do it this way around, and that's fine. The handle goes all the way around. It's gone through those little loops on the box there as well, so it can't come loose, and hopefully these buckles will hold up. They are from Amazon, but they seem pretty sturdy. I might even double that up, so that's good. And then we've got my cigarette lighter there for a 12-volt output. You can even plug a little inverter into there if you wanted to. One thing I will say is that I ache more today after doing that for 6 hours yesterday than I did when I went tarp camping the other day up in the woods. It puts you in stress positions that you wouldn't believe. I'll tell you what, SAS training, I've just done it. So anyway, that's my power box. I will just give you a very quick glimpse inside. Let's get my straps off. How do we do this? Let's get that one off there. And that's much easier. Right, let's get the lid off. And there we go. So we've got my charge controller, I've got my inverter, I've got my fuse box, which I haven't got the lid on. Do I need it? Can't be asked. I've got my bus board for positive, I've got my bus for negative right down the bottom there, I've got my cigarette lighter there, I've got my thing. I did have a readout thing with this Coulomb meter, but the item was discontinued on Amazon and it was really hard to program. I think I mentioned yesterday and on the previous clip. But yeah, it's been discontinued on Amazon and it's only got like one review. I didn't realise when I'd ordered it, but I have got something else that I can possibly use. In the end, I may end up getting like a Victron bus bar, not a bus bar, a shunt, which is Bluetooth, and that will tell you exactly what the capacity is and how much is left on, how much time's left and everything else on your battery. But they cost quite a bit of money, and I'm trying to keep the cost down to make it comparable to one of these Jackeries or All Powers or EcoFlows. Now the thing is with this is you're probably better off, literally, if you're not a prepper, you're better off going out and buying one of these units in one go. Because they're great. They've got everything there. They've got, it's all integrated. The wiring doesn't look probably anything like mine. It's probably all on an integrated circuit board and all done, properly professionally and everything else. However, with this, if any one of those items goes wrong, or I want to change one out, or I want to expand it, or I want to do anything like that, I can just change one item. I assume that I haven't taken one of these Jackery things apart, but I'm assuming they're all in one integrated board. So you've got your charge controller and your inverter and everything else are all on the same board, all the various components rather than individual items. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I imagine that's what they've done, especially to keep the weight down. So mine weighs probably I don't know, a couple of kilos. It's not a massive weight. The battery's really, really light. Yeah, so the whole point really is knowing what to do, knowing how to repair it if it goes wrong, and not having to replace the whole thing. Literally, I could just change a couple of bits of wires. If a fuse blows, I can change a fuse out once I've diagnosed the problem, and that kind of stuff. So it's a good learning process. Yeah, it took me a day. I knew what I was doing. It was just the fiddly bits. So learning from that would be, for me, to try and plan everything out properly first. I mean, I was making a lot of it up as I went, but plan it all out first and wire everything up whilst it's not attached inside. That was a bit of a struggle, getting in there with a small screwdriver. And I did have to take the boards out a couple of times just to wire some other bits and pieces in. I could wire some more in. I've got another 2 slots on my fuse board that I could put in some extra peripheries, but at the moment I've got enough for 3 USBs. I've got 1 USB-C, 2 fast charge USBs, and I've got the potential for another 2 USBs. There's also a USB outlet on the inverter as well, which I could probably just attach a cable to and have that an extension cable just dangling outside. So that for me would be great for, maybe camping on the boat, a bit of lighting, rather than having to hook up to shore power. I could even take it camping if I had the car nearby. It's not that heavy, but I wouldn't want to go trekking across fields with it. But if it was a small walk, or if I was going to a campsite, for instance, I can just take that with me in the car and pull it out, and I've got power, all day long kind of thing, really, especially with the solar panel. And that'll rig up to a standard solar panel. I've got a 130 watt one. I've also got a 50 watt one. I've got a 100 watt one. They're all flexible ones, so that I can charge it up on the go. Oh, what I will do is go through the prices of comparative prices. Let's do that now. I'm just going to run through the prices quickly. Excuse the camera moving around. I haven't got the tripod set up, but I'm just going to run through the costing. So you can buy one of these things. They're about 280, 290 watt hours with the battery size that they have. My one is 384 watt hours. So it's another 100 watt hours, which means you could run, another 100 watts for another hour, because mine's a 30 amp hour and a 30 amp hour battery, 12.8 volts. Even if I just took 12 volts rather than the 12.8 that's on the label on the battery, 12 times 30 is 360. So it's still nearly 100 watt hours higher than the ones I'm comparing with. There's a Jackery and there's an All Powers one, which have a 300 watt inverter in. They're geared up. They don't come with a panel, with a solar panel. So mine, with the solar charger, which is a Victron, I've got the battery box, was about £21. The mains charger, the EcoWorthy mains charger for the LifePo battery, that was kind of one of the most expensive parts at £48. Then we had the battery at £85, which is EcoWorthy. Then I had a USB panel, which was £11 or £12. My 300 watt inverter, which I got for free ages ago, but they're about £50 online. It looks like inverters are going up in price. They seem to have gone up. Inverters seem to have gone up in price quite a lot for some reason. I don't know why. I could be wrong, but it just looks like last time I looked, literally only a couple of weeks ago, they were a lot cheaper than that, which is a bit weird. My fuse box, again, unbranded. You can get them on Amazon for $13.99. You can get them a little bit less than that, actually. But the total for mine was £273.97. So say £274, and you can get a similar professionally all singing, all dancing device, but less watt hours for 200 quid. You can probably get them a little bit less with the discounts that are on Amazon. Yeah, so it's a little bit more. I think the list price of a lot of these ones that are comparative to mine are about sort of 270 quid, but then you get a 70 quid voucher, which takes it down to 200. So it costs a little bit more, but I've had the satisfaction of putting it together myself. It's designed specifically for what I want it for, and I can replace the parts as and when I go. So there we go. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it entertaining as well as useful, maybe informative. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and stay prepared.